Hi, my name is Dan Weems. I work as the Education Coordinator at the Canadian Foodgrains Bank. The Foodgrains Bank is a group of church agencies who have joined together with a mission to end hunger. We do this by gathering resources in the form of cash and food here in Canada and using those resources overseas. We want to inform Canadian supporters of the Foodgrains Bank about the causes of hunger and how the resources are used. One of the ways we do this is by organizing what we call food study tours. Food study tours are a group of about 10 Canadians that we take overseas to meet people who struggle with hunger. One participant on a recent tour to Zambia and Zimbabwe was Mary Jessie from Regina, Saskatchewan. You'll notice in the video that Mary talks a lot about farmers and other people who live in rural areas. This is especially important to the Foodgrains Bank and our mission to end hunger because they represent over 2/3 of the 800 million people who are chronically hungry. Mary was changed by the people she met.
You know, I'm an urban person, and so I don't know a lot about farming. What I saw of small-scale farmers were, I guess, recovery from this very devastating, it was a combination of drought and food supply shortages and a number of things. Farmers, they were so hungry they had to eat their crop seed. The food that came from Canada was also accompanied by locally produced seed, and that then allowed small-scale farmers to get back into production. There's no tractors at all, no mechanized equipment, certainly no fertilizer. We just saw a lot of hard work. People were anxious about the rains. Were the rains going to come? Were they not going to come? I knew this before I went, but you see it very graphically. Africans are not waiting for someone else to come and rescue them and take care of this hunger problem and solve their issues. They are doing everything they can to improve their production. And then there's a woman, her name is Addie. She's got to be 75 years old. So she and her husband, his name was Freya, very beautiful, wise grandparents. They took us to their fields. And his fields are on one side, and he grows maize. And Addie has a square hectare of groundnuts. And there she was with a very simple hoe, weeding and cultivating in her hectare of groundnuts. Well, this is her cash crop. And they now care for, I think, 5 grandchildren. Several of their own children have died, and so Freya and Addie are the caregivers for several grandchildren. And I think this groundnut crop keeps her grandchildren in school. That's the school fees growing right there in the ground around us. You know, just incredible stories of people's ordinary, I guess they're ordinary lives to them, but to me they're really quite amazing people. Some of the things that the Canadian Foodgrains Bank has been doing that we saw were helping folks change their farming practices, composting, using manure teas, crop rotations, those kinds of things. And it really made a big difference, and they're able to feed their families better, a little bit more nutrition, because maize is all starch, right? So you can add some vegetables and some other good things in with that maize. It really keeps you more healthy. Whenever I come into a grocery store now, I think of the person in Zambia, I think, who asked me to describe what's in our grocery stores in Canada. So that one is always in my mind whenever I come into these places and I see, I don't know, 20 varieties of salad dressing and 4 or 5 different kinds of apples. And of course in the grocery stores there, the markets, there are 1 or 2 of each thing, and not just so much variety. I can't buy any Canadian apples today because it's June and there aren't any, but when there are, I try to buy locally now because I think I understand a little bit better why buying locally is important, because it supports people here in our own economy, less transportation costs, more friendly to the environment, and certainly helps our own producers make a living and keep providing food for those of us who don't grow our own food anymore. So those are some of the ways that I remember the farmers that we met, and the families and the communities that are so affected by a lack of food security. And we can't forget those stories and carry on with our own lives when we come home. It's the wrong thing to do. So one just must keep always finding ways to remember and remember what our job is as Christian folks here, which is not to forget and do what you can where you can, and continue to be uncomfortable with that unfairness and the disparity and the wealth we have here and the wealth I enjoy in my own life, and all the food in my fridge and my pantry behind me. To be uncomfortable is pretty important.